What's up, everybody, and welcome to the new normal. You've got me and Lindsay holding it down again. And man, I got to tell you, Lindsay, I am so excited to be back on the new normal. It's only been a couple weeks, but man, it just feels like forever. So it is fun to be back. I was going to say in the studio, but let's be real, it's my living room. But yeah, so glad to be back in the new normal where we are breaking down Big Church for our everyday lives.
Yeah, and the way that we break down Big Church is to tell you guys what we have seen in the scripture, sermon, and in the service, and to give you guys practical tips and tricks on how to live this out in our everyday lives with spiritual disciplines and questions to ponder throughout the week. But as always, Zach, my favorite part of the new normal is your weird icebreaker question that's about to ensue.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Yeah, our icebreaker for this week, still trying to tie it into the sermon, into the service. But yeah, so Preston talked about his vacation and he got to go hiking. And so Lindsay, that made me think, what's your favorite place that you have been hiking or a place just with some good memories?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, it was Kentucky. There's this thing called the Natural Bridge. And so we would hike and there was a long route and a short route. And we'd always do the short route. But come to find out, the short route means a whole lot of steep stairs. And so I should have taken the long route, enjoyed the scenery a little bit more. But no, we just had to climb and climb. And I was dying at the end. But we got there.
That feels like a real fool me once,
I know,
fool
right?
me twice situation
You
you're in
would
here.
think that, but no, I just did it. It's fine.
Every time. The stairs.
Why? Yeah.
Yeah.
But what about you?
For me, I was super fortunate. Growing up, our family did a lot of like hiking based vacations. I've gladly married into a very outdoorsy family. But I think Kendra and I know Kendra and I spent the first couple of years of our marriage in Austin. And so Scottish Woods Trail in Austin just has some of the best memories of kind of our getting to know each other and kind of spending time with friends. And so it might not be the most beautiful place that I've ever hiked, but it just has a bunch of good memories kind of tied in. So that would probably be my top right now, at least. So
That's awesome. Do you know why it's named Scottish Woods? Does it feel like Scotland, or is there like bagpipe playing or anything?
I would, you know what? It probably, there's a handful of lakes that finger off. And so it might be that the lakes make a pipe shit. I'm making things up. I have no idea.
Maybe the Loch Ness Monster's in one of those lakes or something.
Probably, actually. There's something in those lakes, you know what I mean? But
you know who loves lakes? David. Speaking of 1 Samuel. Is that a good transition?
Love those river stones. Yeah.
Okay. I tried.
Right? I feel like it's there.
Okay.
We hit that segue. But yeah, speaking of carrying it through, 1 Samuel talks quite a bit about this guy, specifically chapter 17, verses 48 through 51, which was our passage for this week. And so as I read that, kind of reread it today, it really jumped out to me that David just continues to be this unconventional hero of the story. And just seeing the parallels between him and Jesus. Obviously, Jesus is the perfect form of this unconventional hero, but David is kind of one of the first examples of what it looks like to be just this unsuspected hero. But with that, kind of coming humbly, not wearing his armor, doing it in the name of God rather in his own name, and then defeating the giant not with a sword but with a sling, and then going one step further to make sure that his people were safe. And so I don't know, it really did jump out to me, kind of those parallels. So, but yeah, what about you, Lindsay?
For sure. I think for me, it was the one stone, essentially. In this passage, it only takes one stone to defeat or conquer the giants or to battle anything. I think for me, the way that Preston talked about the significance of the 5 stones being each giant of kind of Goliath's family was kind of just really impactful to know that God can work the first time around, and it doesn't need to be the last dramatic, 5th stone like in the movies. If it was the smallest pebble and it had to be this sort of way to make it perfect, how God uses our ordinary, even on the first time or the first try, and uses us. And I think even in Preston's sermon, when he was talking about going from giant to giant, for me, I think it was really impactful to hear that we all have giants, but it's our response as Christians to see what we do with the giants. It's our response to look at Jesus and just make sure that our eyes are on him rather than kind of our heads down on the ground or looking left and right at what other people are doing, but seeking Jesus in everything that we do. So for me, it was just a good reminder amidst hearing students of the first round of tests and everything that's coming up in their lives, to really just seek Jesus in some powerful ways. But yeah, where'd you kind of glean or see Jesus? I said glean in the services.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, we got to announce early on in the services that it is the 50th anniversary of the weekday school.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I can oftentimes kind of think of the weekday school as slightly removed from some of the things that we do. But really, it's this incredible just extension of our ministry of the church that gets to reach so many families and so many children. So it was really cool to get to celebrate that and to get to meet our new weekday school director. But then moving on into the services, into the music of the services, it was really neat to have in traditional service, the offertory was this arrangement by Mark Miller, who for youth worship and things like that, we've used some of his stuff before. And I think he just does a really good job of taking really old and kind of not sleepy, but just kind of we can forget some of these concepts, but putting it into kind of layman's terms or new language that really speaks to us. And so this idea of him just putting together a piece called I Believe, and there's actually a really, really good history to that if you want to look into it. But that it's just this, I believe in the sun even when it's not shining. I believe in God even when he's not speaking, maybe even when we're not listening. And so to have that kind of echoed in the story, kind of along David, who was believing in God, was really cool. And then to go kind of from that service into contemporary and the song Always Have. This idea that God, you love me and you always have.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of them being two services this week, God just did a cool work with me to allow me to kind of see like that 8:30 service flow into the 9:45 service, as though it was just kind of one continuous piece. And I really, really was glad to be able to enjoy that. Yeah, I don't know. Did anything else stand out to you throughout the services?
I don't think so. I think you hit all of it. I think what was super impactful in just thinking about the entire service and the sermon in general was understanding just the power of rest. And I think our spiritual discipline this week is just the Sabbath. Where can we kind of pause and just see Jesus in our lives to know that rest is not always just procrastinating or trying to shove things over, but really trusting God with our time, knowing that he's our priority and he's enough. And really to understand what that looks like in our life. So maybe it is, watching a movie or reading in the rain and having a nice cup of tea, whatever it looks like. And what does it look like to rest in his presence, to rest on a Sabbath, 24 hours, an afternoon, a couple hours, anything, to really just seek God and kind of slow down in a way. But
yeah, and I find that I rest best when I've
oh,
kind of, but that I tend to rest best when I've gotten kind of my checklist out of the way, right? I'm not actually procrastinating because there's always something that needs to get done, but some of it can be farther off.
yeah.
And one of the things that Preston talked about in his sermon is that we write these daily essays to God, but they're not these 5,000 word essays, 15,000. It's not a dissertation. It's just a daily piece that we're kind of offering a work to God. And so what are some ways this week? We know that God loves us and we know that God always will. But maybe what are some ways and things that we can do this week that really highlight how we're kind of writing our essay to God, spending our time in devotion and discipleship. So that's what I would encourage us, you and myself, and then also anyone who's joining us, is to kind of figure that out. And then next week, we so hope that you join us. Lindsay won't be here though, because she will be big church.
I am.
I don't, is that, you are
Am
big
I?
church? That's appropriate.
We'll
I
just
don't
go with
know.
it. It's fine.
Lindsay's going to be preaching next Sunday. So instead of making her break down her sermon, we're going to invite it's going to be great. I will be back and very, very glad to be here. And then alongside me will be Savannah and Alicia. So we're super, super excited to continue to get to hear new voices. And of course, I'm always excited to be here. So we look forward to seeing you next week. And with that, keep the conversation going. Be sure you're kind of following that link if you want to jump in and be a part of the conversation with us or ask any questions or anything like that. But then stay plugged into your community. And we look forward to kind of hearing from you as often as we can. So that's what we've got. Thanks so much for hanging out.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll see you next time on another episode of The New Normal, and also with you.
Bye, y'all.